Have you ever noticed something strange? You can spend years being kind, years saying yes, years sacrificing your own happiness just to avoid disappointing someone, and still, the moment you finally choose yourself, they call you selfish. Think about that for a second. How many times have you swallowed your own opinions because you didn't want conflict? How many dreams have you postponed because someone else didn't approve? How often have you smiled while quietly breaking inside? Perhaps you've become so skilled at making everyone comfortable that you've forgotten what comfort feels like for yourself. This is the invisible prison millions of people live in every single day, not behind iron bars, not locked inside a room, but trapped inside the expectations of other people. Every morning, they wake up asking one question without even realizing it. Will they like me today? That single question silently controls their entire life. It decides what they wear, what they post online, what career they choose, who they love, what opinions they hide, and eventually who they become. The tragedy isn't that people judge you. People have always judged. The tragedy is when you begin judging yourself through their eyes. Imagine carrying hundreds of invisible mirrors everywhere you go. Every mirror belongs to someone else. Your parents, friends, co-workers, neighbors, strangers online. Each mirror reflects a different version of who they think you should be. One says you're too quiet. Another says you're too loud. One tells you to work harder. Another says you're working too much. One demands confidence. Another criticizes your confidence as arrogance. So you spend your entire life running from mirror to mirror, trying to adjust yourself, trying to become acceptable, trying to become enough. But here's the cruel truth. No matter how perfectly you change yourself, there will always be another mirror waiting, another opinion, another criticism, another impossible expectation. You can never satisfy people whose standards constantly change. Modern life has made this problem even worse. Centuries ago, a person worried about the opinions of perhaps 50 people in their village. Today, one photograph can receive thousands of judgments within minutes. Social media has transformed comparison into a daily habit. Approval became measurable. Likes, views, followers, comments. We began confusing attention with value, popularity with purpose, validation with identity. Every notification gives a tiny burst of pleasure. Your brain whispers, they approve. But the pleasure disappears almost immediately. Then you need another post, another compliment, another achievement, another round of applause without noticing. You become emotionally dependent on strangers you've never met. Psychologists call this external validation. It happens when your sense of worth depends more on other people's reactions than your own values. It's exhausting because you no longer control your happiness. Other people do. If they praise you, you feel valuable. If they ignore you, you question yourself. If they criticize you, your entire identity begins to shake. Imagine giving hundreds of people a remote control to your emotions. One person presses joy, another presses fear, someone else presses shame, another presses anger every day. Your emotional life becomes a television everyone else is controlling, and you wonder why you're tired. Here's something many people never admit. People-pleasing rarely comes from kindness alone. Often, it comes from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of abandonment, fear of disappointing others, fear of being misunderstood, fear of standing alone. The child inside us quietly believes, if everyone likes me, I'll finally be safe. But safety bought through constant self-sacrifice is never real safety. It's emotional slavery. History has shown this countless times. The people who changed the world were rarely loved by everyone. The greatest philosophers were criticized. The greatest scientists were mocked. The greatest artists were rejected. The greatest leaders stood alone long before they were admired. If they had waited for universal approval, nothing extraordinary would ever have happened. Even nature teaches this lesson. The tallest tree in the forest doesn't apologize for growing higher. The river doesn't stop flowing because someone dislikes its direction. The sun never asks permission before it rises. Only human beings believe they must earn the right to exist, and perhaps that's our greatest illusion. The Roman Stoics understood something modern society keeps forgetting. Peace does not come from controlling other people's opinions. Peace comes from becoming independent of them. That doesn't mean becoming cold or arrogant or uncaring. It means learning the difference between kindness and surrendering yourself, between compassion and constant approval seeking, between love and losing your identity. Because there is a hidden cost to pleasing everyone. Every unnecessary yes becomes a silent no to yourself. Every fake smile hides an authentic feeling. Every ignored boundary teaches people that your needs come last. Slowly, without noticing, you disappear. Not physically, spiritually, emotionally. One day you wake up and ask yourself a terrifying question. Who am I when nobody needs me? If that question feels uncomfortable, good, because discomfort is often the beginning of awakening. Perhaps you've spent years becoming everything everyone wanted. Now, it is time to discover who you become when you stop asking for permission to simply be yourself. This journey won't begin by changing other people. It begins by changing one belief that has quietly ruled your entire life. The belief that your worth must be earned through approval, because the day you stop living for applause is the day you finally hear your own voice, and that voice has been waiting for you all along. Have you ever wondered why it hurts so much when someone doesn't approve of you? Why one careless comment can echo in your mind for days, while 10 compliments disappear within minutes? Why rejection from a stranger sometimes feels more painful than acceptance from someone you love? The answer is deeper than personality, deeper than confidence. It reaches back to the earliest chapters of being human, long before cities, before money, before social media. Our ancestors survived because they belonged to a tribe. To be accepted meant protection. To be rejected often meant death. A person separated from the group had little chance against predators, harsh weather, or starvation. Your brain remembers this ancient history. Even though you now live in a modern world, part of your nervous system still reacts to rejection as if your survival depends on it. This is why criticism feels physically painful. Scientists studying the brain have found that social rejection activates many of the same neural pathways associated with physical pain. To your brain, being excluded doesn't simply feel unpleasant. It feels dangerous. And because your brain is designed to protect you, it constantly searches for signs of approval. A smile, a compliment, a like, a message, recognition. Anything that whispers, you're accepted. There is nothing wrong with wanting connection. Connection is human. The problem begins when connection becomes dependence, when your identity no longer belongs to you, but to everyone watching. Many people mistake validation for love. But they are not the same. Validation says, I approve of who you are. Love says, I see who you are even when I don't always agree. Approval changes with opinions. Love remains rooted in respect. Yet countless people spend their entire lives chasing the first, while starving themselves of the second. Think about a young child learning to walk. They look toward their parents after every small success. Every smile tells them, you're doing well. Every clap becomes encouragement. This is healthy. Children need affirmation while building confidence. But something subtle happens as we grow older. Some people never stop looking outward. Instead of asking, do I believe in myself? They keep asking, do they believe in me? That single shift changes everything, because now every decision depends on an audience. You choose careers to impress relatives. You buy things to impress strangers. You stay in relationships because you're afraid of disappointing people. You hide your opinions to avoid conflict. You laugh at jokes you don't find funny. You apologize for things that require no apology. Slowly, you stop living your own story. You become an actor performing for invisible judges. Perhaps you've experienced this yourself. Imagine receiving a message from someone you admire. They don't reply. Minutes become hours. Hours become days. Without evidence, your mind starts creating stories. Did I say something wrong? Maybe they're angry. Perhaps I'm not interesting enough. Notice what happened. Nothing actually occurred. Only silence. Yet your mind transformed silence into self-doubt. Psychologists call this negative interpretation bias. When we crave approval, uncertainty becomes filled with fear. Instead of assuming neutrality, we assume rejection. This explains why people-pleasers often overthink every conversation. They replay words, analyze expressions, read hidden meanings into ordinary moments. Their minds become detectives searching for signs that someone may be unhappy with them. Ironically, the very habit meant to create acceptance produces anxiety instead. There is another reason we seek validation: comparison. Modern technology has placed billions of lives into the palm of your hand. Every scroll shows another achievement, another holiday, another perfect relationship, another promotion, another smiling photograph, another luxury lifestyle. You begin comparing your ordinary Tuesday to someone else's carefully edited highlight reel. Comparison quietly creates a feeling of lack. You begin believing, if everyone else seems happier, there must be something wrong with me. So you work harder to appear successful, not necessarily to become successful, to appear successful. Appearance replaces authenticity. Performance replaces peace. The mask becomes more important than the face beneath it, but masks are heavy. The longer you wear one, the harder it becomes to remember who you truly are. There is an old story about a sculptor who spent decades carving statues for kings. Everyone praised his masterpieces. People traveled from distant lands to admire his work. Yet every evening he returned home feeling strangely empty. One day his apprentice asked, "Master, why do you look so sad when the whole world celebrates your talent?" The old sculptor smiled sadly. They applaud the statue they see, not the man who carved it. I've spent so long creating what others admire. I no longer know whether they would admire the real me. How many people live exactly like that? They receive praise, but not for their authentic selves. They are praised for always being agreeable, always available, always cheerful, always productive, always perfect. Eventually they become prisoners of their own reputation, because now they fear changing. What if people stop liking me? What if I disappoint them? What if they leave? These questions silently shape countless lives. And yet, there is a painful paradox. The more desperately you seek approval, the less genuine your relationships become. Why? Because people can only know the version of you that you show them. If you constantly hide your true thoughts, your real personality, your boundaries, your dreams, then even when people like you, they're often liking the performance, not the person. That is one of the loneliest feelings in the world, to be surrounded by people, yet feel unseen. Many people believe confidence comes from hearing "you're amazing" again and again. But real confidence grows differently. It grows every time you keep a promise to yourself, every time you tell the truth when it's uncomfortable, every time you say no without guilt, every time you choose integrity over popularity. Confidence is built internally. Validation is borrowed externally. Borrowed confidence always has to be repaid. Sooner or later, someone withdraws their approval, and when they do, everything built upon it begins to collapse. Imagine constructing a house on shifting sand. At first it looks beautiful, strong, stable, but the foundation moves every time the tide changes. External approval is exactly like that. Today's applause becomes tomorrow's criticism. Today's supporters become tomorrow's doubters. Today's trends become tomorrow's mistakes. If your identity rests on unstable ground, your peace will always be temporary. This is why so many successful people still feel insecure. They've accumulated wealth, recognition, titles, followers, yet remain terrified of losing them, because what was built through approval must constantly be defended through more approval. The race never ends. The finish line keeps moving. The applause grows quieter, and the silence becomes unbearable, unless you discover another source of worth, one that cannot be given, and therefore cannot be taken away. The ancient Stoics believed every human being possesses something more valuable than reputation. Character. Reputation belongs to other people. Character belongs to you. Reputation can disappear overnight. Character remains even when the world misunderstands you. This simple distinction would change the lives of emperors, soldiers, philosophers, and ordinary citizens alike. Among them was one man who carried the weight of an empire on his shoulders, a ruler surrounded by praise, yet remarkably uninterested in it. A man who understood that public opinion rises and falls like the wind. His name was Marcus Aurelius, and the wisdom he recorded nearly 2,000 years ago speaks directly to the modern struggle of seeking validation. Picture this. The year is around 170 AD. The Roman Empire stretches across 3 continents. Millions of lives depend on the decisions of one man. Generals await his commands. Senators argue for his favor. Citizens praise him in the streets and criticize him in whispers. Every day, he is surrounded by admiration and by deception. If anyone had a reason to become addicted to approval, it was the emperor himself. Yet every evening, after the noise of the palace faded, after the meetings, the battles, the celebrations, he sat alone and wrote private notes to himself. Not speeches, not laws, not letters meant to impress history, just quiet reflections, simple reminders, lessons he feared he might forget. Those pages would later become one of the most influential books ever written, not because they promised success, but because they taught freedom. The man was Marcus Aurelius, and one truth appears again and again throughout his reflections. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Think about how radical that idea is. Most people spend their lives trying to control the uncontrollable. They try to control opinions, reputations, outcomes, other people's emotions, the future. Marcus recognized something different. The more energy you spend trying to control what belongs to others, the less energy remains for mastering yourself. Imagine trying to stop the wind with your hands. You can exhaust yourself. Become angry, curse the sky, yet the wind continues. That is exactly what happens when you try to control how everyone sees you. Opinions move like the wind. One day people admire you. The next day they misunderstand you. Neither changes who you truly are. Marcus understood this because he lived it. As emperor, every decision created enemies. Raise taxes. Someone suffers. Lower taxes. Someone complains. Choose peace. The generals call you weak. Choose war. Families mourn. No decision pleased everyone. If he had based his choices on universal approval, Rome would have stood still. Instead, he asked a different question. Not, will everyone like this? But is this the right thing to do? That single question separates wisdom from people-pleasing. The people-pleaser asks, how will they react? The Stoic asks, what does virtue require? Notice the difference. One life is driven by fear, the other by principle. Marcus often reminded himself that fame is temporary. Imagine standing in a crowded stadium. Thousands cheer your name. The sound is overwhelming. It feels unforgettable. Now imagine returning 500 years later. The stadium is empty. The crowd is gone. The name's forgotten. That is history. Every generation believes its celebrities will be remembered forever. Yet time quietly erases almost everyone. Marcus reflected on this often. The people praising you today will soon disappear. So will the people criticizing you. Eventually, so will you. This was not pessimism, it was liberation. If praise is temporary, why sacrifice your soul chasing it? If criticism is temporary, why fear it so deeply? The Stoics called this perspective the view from above. In your imagination, rise above your city, then above your country, above the clouds, above the earth itself. From that distance, arguments shrink, embarrassments disappear, social status becomes invisible. The opinion that kept you awake at night becomes impossible to see. Suddenly you realize something extraordinary. The universe is unimaginably vast. Your anxiety is incredibly small. Marcus used this mental exercise to escape the illusion that every criticism was a catastrophe. He trained himself to remember scale. Today, we magnify tiny moments into life-defining events. One awkward conversation, one negative comment, one failed project, one rejection. Our minds convince us that everything has changed, but has it? Or has your perspective simply become too narrow? Marcus believed suffering often begins with interpretation. An event happens, then the mind immediately creates a story. They ignored me because I'm not good enough. She disagreed with me because she doesn't respect me. He criticized my work because I'm a failure. The Stoics challenged these stories. They asked, is this fact or interpretation? That question alone can dissolve countless unnecessary fears. Suppose someone walks past without greeting you. A people-pleaser thinks they're upset with me. A Stoic thinks perhaps they're distracted. Perhaps they're tired. Perhaps I simply don't know. The first interpretation creates suffering. The second creates peace. Nothing changed except the story. Marcus also wrote about the danger of becoming a slave to applause. He observed that people often become performers rather than human beings. They speak not to express truth, but to earn approval. They work not to fulfill purpose, but to impress observers. They become actors trapped on a stage that never closes. How exhausting must that be? Imagine living every hour under invisible cameras, not because cameras exist, but because your mind believes someone is always judging. You stop relaxing. You stop experimenting. You stop making mistakes. Eventually, you stop growing. Marcus knew that growth requires courage, and courage often attracts criticism. No one who changes the world escapes misunderstanding. History proves this repeatedly. Think of the philosopher Socrates. He questioned comfortable beliefs. Instead of honoring him, Athens sentenced him to death. Consider the astronomer Galileo. He looked through a telescope and described what he saw. Many attacked him because truth threatened tradition. Or think of great artists whose work was rejected while they were alive, only to be celebrated generations later. What if they had abandoned their convictions simply because people disapproved? The world would be poorer for it. Marcus understood this pattern. He reminded himself that public opinion is often delayed. The crowd may recognize wisdom only after years, sometimes centuries. Therefore, approval cannot be the compass. Character must be. One evening, imagine a young Roman officer approaching the emperor. Caesar, he asks, How do you remain calm when so many speak against you? Marcus smiles. He points towards a statue standing in the palace courtyard. What do you hear? The officer listens. Nothing. Marcus nods. The statue hears both praise and insult. It remains stone, not because it lacks awareness, but because it knows neither voice changes what it is. The lesson is subtle. Stoicism does not ask you to become emotionless. It asks you to become rooted, like a mountain that remains while storms pass overhead. Storms are real, rain is real, thunder is real, but the mountain does not abandon itself because the weather changes. Neither should you abandon your values because public opinion shifts. Marcus believed the greatest victory was never over enemies. It was over the self, over anger, fear, vanity, neediness, pride, and especially the endless hunger for approval. Because the person who depends on applause can always be manipulated. Offer them praise, and they follow. Threaten them with rejection, and they surrender. Freedom begins the moment approval is no longer your master. This does not mean becoming indifferent to everyone. Marcus cared deeply about people. He served his empire tirelessly, but he refused to let admiration become his identity. He measured success differently, not by how loudly people applauded, but by whether he had acted with wisdom, justice, courage, and self-control. These four virtues became the pillars of Stoic life. They were internal, untouchable. No critic could steal them. No compliment could increase them. They depended entirely on daily choices, and perhaps that is the greatest lesson Marcus Aurelius leaves us. Your reputation belongs to the crowd. Your character belongs to you. Guard the second, and the first will no longer control your life. Yet understanding this truth is only the beginning. Knowing that approval is unnecessary is very different from living as though it is. So how do we break the habit? How do we stop reacting to every opinion, every insult, every silence? The answer lies in a force more powerful than arguments, more powerful than proving yourself, and more powerful than seeking the last word. It lies in something the strongest people have quietly mastered for centuries: the power of silence. There is a moment in almost every argument when two paths appear. The first path is familiar. Defend yourself, explain everything, prove your innocence, win the debate. The second path feels almost impossible. Say nothing, walk away, protect your peace. Most people choose the first, not because it works, but because silence feels like defeat. We have been conditioned to believe that if we do not defend ourselves immediately, people will misunderstand us. If we do not explain our decisions, others will assume the worst. If we do not respond, we lose. But what if the opposite is true? What if the strongest response is often no response at all? Imagine throwing a stone into a calm lake. For a moment, the water ripples. But if no more stones are thrown, the surface returns to stillness. Now imagine throwing stones into another lake where someone keeps throwing more back. The water never becomes calm. That is what happens inside your mind every time you react to. Every criticism, every explanation creates another question. Every defense invites another attack. Every argument demands another argument. Peace becomes impossible because you never stop feeding the disturbance. The Stoics understood this long before psychology gave it a name. They knew that every reaction is a choice. Not every invitation deserves your attention. Not every accusation deserves your defense. Not every opinion deserves space inside your mind. There is an old story about a traveling philosopher who entered a crowded marketplace. A wealthy merchant recognized him and shouted, "You're a fraud. Everything you teach is useless." The crowd immediately fell silent. Everyone expected an argument. Instead, the philosopher smiled. He continued walking. The merchant became louder. "Are you afraid to answer me?" Still, no reply. Finally, one curious student caught up with the philosopher and asked, "Master, why didn't you defend yourself?" The old man stopped beside a tree. He picked up a wrapped gift from the ground. "If I offer you this gift, and you refuse to accept it, who does it belong to?" "The person offering it," the student replied. The philosopher nodded. "So it is with insults." That simple image has survived for centuries because it reveals something profound. An insult only becomes yours when you accept it. Otherwise, it remains with the one who offered it. Think about how many emotional burdens you carry today that never truly belonged to you. Someone called you lazy. Someone said you weren't talented. Someone doubted your dreams. Someone laughed at your ambitions. Years passed, yet their words still occupy space inside your mind. Why? Because somewhere along the journey, you accepted the gift. Psychology explains this beautifully. Human beings possess something called an emotional trigger. A trigger is not the event itself. It is the meaning we attach to the event. Imagine two people hearing the exact same criticism. One shrugs and continues working. The other lies awake replaying the conversation all night. The criticism was identical. The response was completely different. Why? Because the first person's identity was rooted internally. The second person's identity depended upon approval. The event did not create the suffering. The interpretation did. This is one of the greatest discoveries you can make. You are not disturbed by everything that happens. You are disturbed by the story your mind tells about what happened. That story can be rewritten, not through denial, not through pretending nothing hurts, but through awareness. Silence gives you that awareness. Have you noticed something interesting about confident people? They rarely rush to explain themselves. Not because they are arrogant, because they understand something insecurity never learns. Truth does not become stronger through endless explanation. Imagine an ancient oak tree standing in the middle of a storm. The wind screams, branches sway, rain crashes against its trunk. Yet the tree never argues with the weather. It simply remains rooted. Strength does not announce itself. It demonstrates itself. People who constantly seek approval often believe they must explain. Every decision, I didn't reply because I was busy. I canceled because something came up. I chose this career because I posted that because soon they are writing essays justifying ordinary choices, not because anyone demanded them. Because they fear being misunderstood. Yet no explanation can satisfy someone committed to misunderstanding you. This is a painful truth. Some people do not seek clarity. They seek control. They ask questions not to understand, but to keep you defending yourself. The moment you recognize this, silence becomes freedom. There is another story from ancient Greece. A young man once asked his teacher, "How will people know I'm wise?" The teacher poured tea into a cup until it overflowed. The young man quickly protested, "The cup is already full." The teacher smiled. So is the mouth of the man who constantly needs everyone to know his wisdom. Real strength rarely announces itself. The lion does not tell the forest he is powerful. The mountain does not remind the valley it is tall. The ocean does not argue with the river about depth. Nature teaches quietly. Perhaps that is why it feels peaceful. Modern life has almost forgotten this lesson. Today, speed is rewarded, instant replies, instant opinions, instant outrage. If someone criticizes you online, respond immediately. If someone disagrees, argue instantly. If someone misunderstands, correct them before another minute passes. Silence now feels unnatural. Yet neuroscience suggests something remarkable. When emotions surge, the rational part of your brain temporarily becomes less effective. In other words, The angrier you become, the worse your thinking becomes. This explains why people often regret words spoken in moments of emotion. Anger narrows perspective. Fear exaggerates danger. Embarrassment distorts reality. Silence interrupts this process. It creates a small space between emotion and action. Inside that space, wisdom has a chance to appear. The Stoics practiced this constantly. Before reacting, pause. Before speaking, reflect. Before defending, ask yourself, will these words improve the situation or simply satisfy my ego? Many conflicts disappear when the ego stops demanding the final word. Marcus Aurelius wrote that the best revenge is not becoming like the person who harmed you. Imagine someone shouting insults across a room. If you answer with equal anger, the room now contains two angry people. But if you remain composed, only one person has lost control. Which response reflects greater strength? Society often mistakes volume for confidence, yet genuine confidence is remarkably quiet. It does not need to convince everyone. It does not chase every disagreement. It does not panic when misunderstood, because it knows identity cannot be decided by public opinion. There is a Japanese proverb that says, "The bamboo that bends is stronger than the oak that resists." Bamboo appears fragile. It sways with the wind. Yet when the storm passes, it remains standing. Many rigid trees break. Silence works the same way. It is not weakness. It is flexibility. It is choosing not to waste precious energy fighting battles that do not deserve your life. Ask yourself honestly, how many hours have you spent replaying arguments that changed nothing? How many nights have been stolen by comments from people who barely know you? How many opportunities have disappeared because you feared criticism? Now imagine reclaiming all that energy. Instead of proving yourself, you improve yourself. Instead of defending your worth, you live it. Instead of chasing approval, you cultivate character. Everything changes, because silence is not empty. Silence is where clarity grows. Silence is where confidence matures. Silence is where self-respect quietly replaces the desperate need to be understood by everyone. And once you discover that kind of inner stillness, something extraordinary happens. People's opinions begin to lose their power, not because they stop speaking, but because you stop surrendering your peace every time they do. Yet silence alone is not enough. Freedom requires practice, like strengthening a muscle. Your mind must be trained every single day. The Stoics understood that wisdom is not built through inspiration alone. It is built through habits, small, consistent, daily disciplines that gradually transform the way you think, respond, and live. Knowledge can inspire you, but habits transform you. You can read every Stoic book ever written. You can memorize every quote from Marcus Aurelius. You can understand every psychological explanation about people-pleasing. Yet none of it matters unless it changes the way you live, because freedom from approval is not a single decision. It is a daily practice. A muscle that grows stronger each time you choose yourself over the need to be liked. The good news: you do not need to change your entire life overnight. The Stoics never asked for perfection. They asked for progress. Small acts, repeated consistently, day after day, moment after moment, choice after choice, and over time, those small choices create a completely different person. Let's explore the habits that can help you break free from the need for constant validation. Habit number 1, pause before you say yes. Most people pleasers share one common weakness. They answer too quickly. Someone asks for a favor. Sure. Someone requests extra work. No problem. Someone wants your time. Of course, the response is automatic. There is no pause, no reflection, no consideration of personal cost. only the fear of disappointing someone. But every unnecessary yes creates a hidden burden, more obligations, more stress, more resentment. Eventually, your kindness begins to feel like imprisonment. The Stoics would encourage a simple practice: pause, even for a few seconds. When someone asks something of you, resist the urge to answer immediately. Take a breath, ask yourself, do I genuinely want to do this? Do I have the time and energy? Am I saying yes from generosity or fear? That small pause creates freedom. For the first time, your response becomes intentional instead of automatic. Remember, a thoughtful no is often kinder than a resentful yes. Habit number 2, separate your worth from results. One reason people seek approval is because they connect their value to outcomes. If they succeed, they feel worthy. If they fail, they feel worthless. But Stoicism teaches a different perspective. Focus on effort, not outcome. Imagine an archer aiming at a target. The archer controls preparation, technique, concentration, practice. But once the arrow leaves the bow, the wind may change. Conditions may shift, unexpected factors may interfere. The outcome is never fully under control. Life works the same way. You control your actions, not the results. You control your character, not public opinion. You control your effort, not how others respond. The moment you separate self-worth from outcomes, criticism loses much of its power, because success no longer defines you, and failure no longer destroys you. Habit number 3, practice disappointing people. This sounds uncomfortable, because it is. Yet it may be one of the most powerful exercises you can ever perform. Many people live with an irrational fear. If I disappoint someone, everything will fall apart. The only way to overcome that fear is through experience. Start small. Decline an invitation you genuinely do not want to attend. Say no to an unnecessary request. Express a different opinion respectfully. Set a boundary. Then observe what happens. Most of the time, nothing catastrophic occurs. The world continues spinning. People adjust. Life moves forward. Every time you survive a small disappointment, your confidence grows. You begin realizing that disagreement is not danger, disapproval is not destruction, and boundaries are not selfishness. They are self-respect. Habit number 4. Stop explaining every decision. This habit alone can change your life. Many people feel compelled to justify everything, every choice, every boundary, every preference, every absence, every decision. But consider this. Confident people rarely over-explain, not because they are rude, because they trust themselves. Imagine saying, "I won't be able to attend," and stopping there. No lengthy defense, no elaborate excuse, no emotional essay, just clarity, simple, respectful, complete. At first this feels terrifying. Your mind screams, "They'll think badly of me." Maybe, maybe not. But remember what Marcus Aurelius taught: you control your actions, not their opinions. The more comfortable you become with brief honesty, the less dependent you become on approval. Habit number 5. Keep a Stoic journal. Marcus Aurelius never intended his writings to become famous. His journal was private, a conversation with himself, a place to examine his thoughts honestly. You can do the same. Every evening, spend 10 minutes writing. Ask yourself, what bothered me today? Why did it bother me? Was I seeking approval? What was actually under my control? How could I respond differently tomorrow? This simple habit creates awareness, and awareness creates change. Without reflection, patterns remain invisible. With reflection, patterns become choices. Over time, you begin noticing how often your emotions are tied to external validation, and once you see the pattern, you can start breaking it. Habit number 6. Build internal standards. People pleasers constantly ask, what do they think? Stoics ask, did I live according to my values? That difference changes everything. Create your own standards, not based on popularity, not based on trends, not based on approval, based on character. Perhaps your standards include honesty, courage, discipline, kindness, integrity, patience. At the end of each day, evaluate yourself against those standards, not against social media, not against strangers, not against unrealistic expectations, against your own values. This creates internal validation, the most stable form of confidence, because it cannot be taken away by criticism. Habit number 7. Learn to be alone. Many people chase approval because they fear solitude. Silence feels uncomfortable, being alone feels empty, so they constantly seek distraction, attention, conversation, recognition. But the Stoics viewed solitude differently. They saw it as training, a place where self-knowledge grows. Try spending time alone intentionally. Take a walk without music. Sit quietly. Reflect. Observe your thoughts. Listen to yourself. At first, it may feel strange, because most people spend their entire lives escaping themselves. But eventually, something beautiful happens. You stop needing constant noise. You stop fearing your own company. And when you enjoy being alone, you become far less willing to betray yourself just to avoid loneliness. Habit number 8. Remember mortality. This may be the most powerful Stoic practice of all. The Stoics called it memento mori. Remember that you will die, not to create fear, but to create clarity. Imagine reaching the final years of your life. Looking back, what will matter more? The opinions of strangers, or the fact that you lived authentically? Will you regret disappointing a few people? Or will you regret abandoning yourself for decades? Most people assume they have endless time, so they postpone their true lives. They delay their dreams, hide their opinions, suppress their identity, wait for permission, wait for approval, wait for the perfect moment. But life is shorter than we think. One day the opportunity disappears. One day the audience disappears. One day you disappear, and suddenly the question becomes very simple. Did I live according to my values? Or did I spend my life performing for others? If you practice these habits consistently, something remarkable begins to happen. Not overnight, not dramatically, quietly, gradually. You stop checking whether everyone approves. You stop needing the last word. You stop apologizing for existing. You stop explaining every decision. You stop carrying emotional burdens that were never yours. Instead, you begin trusting yourself. Your confidence no longer depends on applause. Your peace no longer depends on agreement. Your worth no longer depends on validation. And that is real freedom, not the freedom to do whatever you want. The freedom to remain yourself, even when others disagree, because the strongest people are not those who convince everyone. They are the ones who no longer need to. And when that shift finally happens, when you stop chasing approval and start living according to your own principles, you experience something most people spend their entire lives searching for: inner peace. But peace comes with a final challenge, a deeply emotional question that every person must answer eventually. What kind of life will you choose before your time runs out? That is where our journey ends, and where the final lesson begins. Imagine yourself many years from now. Your hair has turned grey, your pace has slowed, the noise of the world has become quieter. You are sitting alone on a peaceful morning, watching the sun rise just as it has done every day of your life. And for the first time in years, there are no meetings to rush to, no notifications, demanding your attention, no audience waiting for your next move. Only silence, only your memories. Now ask yourself one question. What kind of life will you remember? Will you remember all the strangers whose approval you desperately chased? Will you remember every argument you tried to win? Every opinion you tried to change? Every moment you sacrificed your happiness just to avoid disappointing someone else? Probably not. What you will remember are the moments you were truly alive, the day you finally spoke honestly, the day you chose courage over comfort, the day you stopped pretending, the day you realized your life belonged to you, not to the expectations of everyone around you. Because in the end, life is not measured by how many people approved of you. It is measured by how faithfully you lived according to your own values. There is an old story that perfectly captures this truth. A traveler spent his entire life carrying a heavy backpack. Everywhere he went, people added something to it. One person placed expectations inside. Another added criticism. Someone else filled it with guilt. Others added fear, regret, comparison. The traveler never questioned the weight. He simply believed carrying it was part of life. Year after year, the backpack became heavier. His shoulders bent, his steps slowed, his smile disappeared. Then one day, an old man sitting beside a quiet road asked him a simple question. Why are you carrying all of that? The traveler looked confused. Because people gave it to me. The old man smiled gently. And who told you that you had to keep carrying it? For a long moment, the traveler said nothing. Then, slowly, he placed the backpack on the ground. As he stood upright for the first time in decades, he realized something astonishing. The weight had never been attached to him, only held by him. Isn't that how many of us live? We carry opinions that were never ours. We carry expectations we never agreed to. We carry guilt for choosing ourselves. We carry the fear of disappointing people who are not living our lives. And after so many years, we mistake the weight for our identity. But you are not your fear. You are not the labels people gave you. You are not the expectations placed upon you. You are certainly not the opinions of strangers. Those things may surround you, but they do not define you. Marcus Aurelius understood this nearly 2,000 years ago. He ruled an empire. He faced war, disease, betrayal, political pressure, the praise of millions, the criticism of thousands. Yet in the privacy of his journal, he kept returning to one timeless truth. Your mind is your kingdom, not your reputation, not your popularity, not your followers, not your applause, your mind. Because once you govern your own mind, no one else can rule your peace. Think about how extraordinary that is. A single insult no longer ruins your day. A rejection no longer destroys your confidence. A disagreement no longer becomes an identity crisis. You stop reacting to every passing opinion like a leaf blown by every changing wind. Instead, you become like an ancient mountain. Storms still arrive, rain still falls, thunder still echoes across the sky, but the mountain remains, not because life became easier, because its foundation is deeper than the storm. That is the quiet strength Stoicism offers, not a life without hardship, a life that cannot be easily shaken. Perhaps today, someone misunderstands you. Let them. Perhaps someone criticizes your choices. Let them. Perhaps someone decides they no longer like you. Let them. You cannot force understanding. You cannot demand respect. You cannot negotiate acceptance from every person you meet. But you can choose something far more powerful. You can choose integrity. You can choose honesty. You can choose courage. You can choose peace. Remember this. Every time you betray yourself to gain approval, you lose something infinitely more valuable than popularity. You lose trust in yourself, and trust, once broken, takes time to rebuild. But every time you honor your values, even when it is uncomfortable, you strengthen something invisible: your character, your confidence, your freedom. That is why the Stoics never chased admiration. They chased excellence of character, because admiration belongs to the crowd. Character belongs to the soul. One can disappear overnight, the other stays with you until your final breath. There will always be people who misunderstand your silence. Some will mistake your boundaries for selfishness. Some will mistake your confidence for arrogance. Some will be disappointed because you no longer make yourself small to keep them comfortable. Allow them to misunderstand. You are not responsible for every story others choose to tell about you. You are only responsible for living truthfully. And here is the beautiful paradox. The moment you stop trying to make everyone like you, you become someone worth respecting, not because everyone agrees with you, but because people recognize authenticity. Authenticity is rare. It cannot be manufactured. It cannot be faked for long. It shines quietly through consistent actions, through calm decisions, through unwavering principles, through a life lived from the inside out. So today, before this story ends, I want to leave you with one final challenge. Not tomorrow, not next week. Today, choose one moment where you stop asking for permission to be yourself. Maybe you politely say no without explaining. Maybe you speak an honest opinion you've hidden for years. Maybe you stop apologizing for something that requires no apology. Maybe you finally let go of an argument that has been stealing your peace. One small act, one quiet decision, one step towards freedom, because transformation rarely begins with a dramatic event. It begins with a single choice repeated every day. One day, you'll notice that criticism no longer controls your mood. One day, you'll realize you haven't checked whether everyone approves. One day, you'll wake up feeling lighter, not because the world changed, but because you did. And when that day comes, you'll understand something that many people spend an entire lifetime chasing. Peace was never hiding in someone else's approval. It was waiting inside the part of you that had the courage to stop abandoning yourself. So, as you leave this story, remember these words whenever you feel tempted to live for applause. You were not born to fit into everyone's expectations. You were born to live according to your deepest values. The world does not need another person exhausted from trying to please everyone. It needs people who are calm in chaos, steady under pressure, kind without weakness, confident without arrogance, and courageous enough to remain true to themselves. If this message spoke to something deep within you, don't let it end here. Carry one lesson with you today. Practice it, live it, return to it whenever doubt appears, because wisdom changes nothing until it becomes action. And if this journey helped you see yourself a little more clearly, share it with someone who is silently carrying the weight of everyone else's expectations. You never know whose life might change because of one conversation, one decision, or one moment of courage. Until next time, guard your peace, master your mind, walk your own path, and remember, the strongest person in the room is rarely the loudest. It is the one who no longer needs the world's permission to be themselves.